In our last video, we looked at where Midian was and concluded that Moses might have settled in this area. So, why here? Exodus chapter 3 verse 1 says a few things we need to pay attention to in locating where Moses was. Now Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian, and he led his flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. 1. We knew Moses was in Midian. 2. Moses led the flock to the west or far side, or after could be used. 3. Moses stayed in one wilderness until he came to Horeb. 4. Horeb is the location of where the mountain of God is, Mount Sinai. We knew that Moses was in Midian, and there was a well that provided water. This is a dam, and it is in this area that I would have thought Moses might have shepherded the sheep and settled. Let us start with the wilderness and follow the physical geography from here. This whole area, highlighted in orange, is the Tabuk City watershed. Not sure if that's its real name, but every drop of water that falls in this area ends up in the city of Tabuk. The reason there is a city of Tabuk is because of this large watershed. When the Bible talks about one wilderness or another wilderness, it must have a clear understanding about what makes them different. One way anyone from ancient times could have known about different wildernesses was to watch the flow of water. They would have known it flowed in different directions. Now, going back to where Moses might have lived, let us go west, or to the far side, to see where we end up. These blue lines show the water flow coming from the west down some of the major wadis, or dry waterbeds. There were a lot of different ways he could have gone, but let's take one specific route, because it is the most western route. This blue line shows how water can flow from the west all the way to the east into Tabuk City. The western elevation is at 1,560 meters. Tabuk City is at 760 meters. From the dam to the western edge of this wilderness is about 90 kilometers. Moses could have followed this blue line, but probably he stayed within the orange-colored wilderness, one wilderness. At this very far end of this one wilderness, he would have come to Horeb, another region. The Bible never says the wilderness of Horeb, so Horeb must be part of a bigger wilderness. Water flows to the east down the watershed we were just coming up. It also flows to the north, then west, then south from this very spot. Every drop of water that falls in this wilderness flows to the Red Sea. This area in green is a new wilderness and again a completely different water flow from the orange one. If you look at this blue line, this is the water flow from the high point of Jebel Haifa to the Red Sea. Somewhere in this area would be the mountain of God. Most people suggest that it is this mountain right here, known today as Jebel Makla. This all lines up perfectly with what the Bible says in Exodus chapter 3 verse 1. Moses was in Midian. He traveled to the far side in one wilderness to Horeb, the mountain of God. These green and orange wildernesses will be extremely important when we revisit this area in another video in the future.